Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. 3v3 has finally come to Grand Arena Championships, and it's a pretty exciting episode. My opponent went full defense, which means that I have a lot of really interesting matches to show you guys. But first I wanted to brag just a little bit, just because I made Qi'ra for the 4th time out of 4 possible times last season. And so last season, at the very start of the season, after I had made Qi'ra 3 times, I had made a kind of victory montage kind of thing. I don't even know what it's called, but I thought I'd do it again. And guys, just remember that in Grand Arena there's always a bigger fish, and I am that fish. Thank you for permitting me a moment to let my ego run free, and now we can focus on the game mode that I don't really have much bragging rights to at all, which is 3v3 in Grand Arena Championships. Now, I've had a fair amount of success in the past when it was the non-championship format for Grand Arena, and you know, a lot of that's still going to translate to this current game mode, but don't get me wrong, there are a lot of new teams and a lot of different things to take into consideration. Last time we were playing, there was only Gear 12. Now we have Relic 7, and we have a ton of new characters that are all really strong. And so let's jump right into the stats here first, just so we can see what we're looking at. So the first thing to look at here is the fact that my opponent has a ton of tier 7 relics compared to me. 9 versus 4, that's huge. That's a massive advantage. Don't pay any attention to the GP up top, it is bugged. Our GPs are a little bit lower each. It doesn't really matter anyways. I have a few more Zetas than my opponent does, and they have way more Gear 12. I have a slight advantage, well, 11 character advantage in Gear 13, and then my mods are, I would say, significantly stronger than my opponent's. Probably the biggest discrepancy here, though, is the fact that my opponent has about half my lifetime banners in Grand Arena, and so, you know, they're not necessarily active participants all the time. You can see that they've only cleared 44 zones compared to I've cleared 142. You know, and I've full cleared 35 rounds, and they've full cleared 5. So my opponent's total defensive numbers, however, are really impressive. 168, better than mine for sure. And that led me to believe that maybe they were just going to go full defense, which they actually did. So yay for me, and yay for us. So moving into the match here, just looking at their deployments, my opponent did place quite a few really strong defensive teams on the board. The zone that I always want to clear first is the bottom zone, just because then I have more information about what all teams I need to be able to counter, and this squad, this zone had quite a few really strong teams, Grievous and Asajj and Nute, all with pretty high relics, or at least decent relics. And then this next zone was so ridiculous. The top zone had a high relic Rex clones team, a Darth Revan team, a Jedi Revan team, and a RAC Padme team. And that's probably a Freudian slip, actually. A max relic Padme team. Just completely ridiculous zone. And you know, you guys should be happy though that this is what you guys were wanting to see. I know that a lot of people have been really clamoring for being able to see a lot of these counters for 3v3, just so we all know how to do them, and so here they are.
Congratulations, you are being rescued. Please do not resist.
So the first thing we need to do is take down this bottom zone. You know, that's relatively obvious, just because we need to have full information here, and none of the teams in this bottom zone are necessarily going to necessitate a really strong counter. You know, these are strong teams. The zombie Acolyte cheese can be really frustrating if you don't have any AoEs or anything. Acolyte will just hide behind the zombie taunt, and you'll never kill her, and you'll time out. Fortunately, I do have some pretty strong Imperial troopers. You can't take the full team, obviously. It's a 3-man team, and this Asajj is Relic 4, and so it's a kind of a scary match, just because she does have pretty high hit points and everything compared to what you normally see. But, one thing that you have to remember in this match is if you can dispel zombie and you're able to, dispel other buffs and everything on the team, it works pretty great. And so, I think I got lucky. Acolyte did her special shot, and she didn't stealth, and so I was able to kind of pick her off relatively early. Remember, you have to kill zombie a couple times first, or kill Night Sisters a couple times first, and then zombies' revives will be exhausted, and you can actually go for the kill. Relatively easy counter there, really nothing too crazy. You do need to have some relatively fast Imperial troopers to be able to do that. Nice start. 54 banners is the max in this, or at least the soft max. I know that you can get a little bit higher if you go undersized, but not really going to try to attempt that. I couldn't really see any way to get around this General Grievous counter. We just don't have enough information about this team yet to be able to counter it in 3v3. And, it's kind of a problem here just because General Grievous is stealth. Magna Guard gives him stealth at the start, and that means that you can't target him right away. If there's not a B2 around, you want to just target General Grievous immediately if you can. But Magna Guard is here, he's stealth Grievous, and so Grievous is going to open with an AoE, and so we may as well just try to kill B1, or rather Magna Guard, right away. And by doing that, that triggers General Grievous's unique Zeta, which means that he resets all of his cooldowns, which all of them were already reset anyways, because it was his first turn, and then after that he takes a bonus turn, so he gains a bunch of turn meter and he does his AoE. So by killing Magna Guard before General Grievous got to go, I was able to just bypass one full turn by General Grievous, which is going to end up being pretty huge. You'll notice that my total amount of offense is quite a bit larger than my previous matches. I took out Magna Guard really fast, even though he had a pretty decent relic level. General Grievous had 125 health, and I was able to take him out really fast. And a lot of that is because I'm using Jedi Knight Revan as lead instead of my usual Bastila lead, and he gives so much extra offense. It's pretty cool. Now you'll note that toward the end of this battle, I was just trying to give a bunch of assists, because under the Jedi Revan lead, every time you assist, you regain protection, and so I was able to get max banners here. I don't really know if that's going to be that plausible with higher relic Grievous. That was only relic 2, and normally you want to face a little bit higher Grievouses, or rather you don't want to face that, but that's what you're kind of looking at. So for this last match, I really wasn't sure what I was looking at. Like I saw Nute and Dooku, and obviously those two were kind of scary together, and then a relic beat one droid, and that's also pretty scary together. They have a lot of good synergy, and I've been talking up this squad for a long time, and I was really itching to use it, obviously, and so took my Thrawn Death Trooper Krennic synergy team, and very first thing I had to do was check to make sure that my Thrawn was faster than their Dooku, because if Dooku went first, I would probably lose this match. Like I think that's imperative. You need to be able to do that and get fracture on Dooku, and then you just want to focus him down as fast as possible, just because he's going to be stunning, he's going to be doing all kinds of annoying things with stealth and countering, so you just need to take him out. He's really the crux of this team, and I won't say that this is an established team. I don't know that it's going to be, but you need to kill Dooku first, and after that, you just want to focus on. You want to pay extortion, because extortion will spread, especially under the Nute lead, and that can really be destructive. I know that a lot of people hate paying extortion. I mean, everyone does. Everyone should hate it, but they don't actually do it because people kind of perceive it as you don't get another turn, and that's accurate. However, one thing to keep in mind about extortion, the way I look at it is, it's just stun with choices. Like if you have to, you can ignore it. Otherwise, you're stunned, you take a turn, which means you don't do anything, and then you go about your business. Like that's all it is. It's just a stun, but you actually get some options available. So it's like a lesser stun. Anyways, I was able to get this. This was fast and furious. I was excited enough that I took a screenshot showing 50 banners. Apparently, I really like this team, clearly. So happy that I was able to make that happen. And Now we can see what is in the back zone, and some more really tough teams. You can see that they have Shock T at Relic 7 leading some really strong clones. Gear 12, but still good. A Zated Hux under Kylo Ren unmasked, and then Relic Geonosians team, which would, foreshadowing, give me a lot of problems later. So first we needed to be able to take down the top zone, and to be able to do that, we need to figure out which teams I have available. So I won't lie, there were enough teams here that were really strong that I wasn't really sure how I was going to get through this zone at first. That every time I thought like, oh yeah, I've got it covered, it was because I was considering like using Commander Luke, for instance, on 2 different teams, and obviously you can't do that. So had to get a little bit creative here. The Darth Revan team was the most problematic for me, of course, just because it had a lot of really strong characters. They were pretty fast. I didn't want to have to face that, but obviously I needed to. And I didn't have Darth Revan of my own because I put my own Darth Revan on defense just to mess with my opponent, and just hopefully hold the line. The other problem was Padme, and they have max relics and really strong mods. Like it was just a really strong team in general. And I knew that I couldn't beat it with Commander Luke. I knew that my own Padme was not up to snuff. Probably couldn't beat it in a mirror. And I thought for a little bit about taking Malak against it, but they did have enough potency on Jedi Knight Anakin to be able to cause that healing immunity. And I just didn't want to mess with that. Like Relic 7 is nothing to sneeze at. So you can see my available teams. I counted Malak as just his own team. I could use someone else to be his leader or whatever, but I thought that he would be relevant here, so that's why I'm adding him. I'd also have my Relic 7 Nest to be able to potentially finish one of these teams off if I needed to. I was originally inclined to take my Padme team into that Darth Revan team just because, I knew that I would probably be able to get the win with that. But then that would kind of skew things a little. I could take Commander Luke against the clones, and then I didn't know, like Traya wouldn't be able to take out their Jedi Revan team, and, maybe their Padme team, I wasn't sure, but then Malak would have to take out either the Jedi Revan team or Padme on his own, and that just didn't work. Malak was probably not strong enough to solo that Padme team. I don't know. I did not want to put myself in that position, and I also didn't want to try to solo the Jedi Revan team with him, especially. That would have been a loss, I think. So what I ended up deciding was, if I could beat the Darth Revan team with Commander Luke, that would open things for me to be able to use Padme against their Jedi Revan team. And Traya, I had an idea to be able to take out the Padme team as well with Traya, so decided to jump in with that, even though the gear disparity was extreme. And then I decided to try Malak to solo the clones, which maybe was foolhardy, but I thought that was probably worth exploring just because I've seen Malak solo entire 5-man clone teams in the past, so I thought that wasn't too big of a stretch, especially because he's Relic 4. Even though they're all Relic 7, I thought that maybe that would end up working out for me. So let's just jump right in and see how I did. So in my mind, the match that held the most uncertainty was the Darth Revan team. I have very few characters and teams that would be able to counter that if things went sideways here, and so I needed to know right away if this wasn't going to work. Then I needed to do it. So first, I decided to use these Tusken Raiders to increase all the cooldowns. I call it the Jawa Gambit. And that just means that you sacrifice 3 really weak characters to increase the cooldowns, so you're not immediately feared by Darth Revan. Now, I realized that we're dropping 20 banners here, but the fact is I thought that I could potentially one-shot this team, or, two-shot, because I'm using 2 different teams, but being able to, jump in with Tuskens that provide no value whatsoever, and then, that now Darth Revan doesn't have any really strong abilities. They're all on cooldown, same with Badstilla and HK, and now my first goal here is to take out Badstilla. Like, if I can take out Badstilla, then I should be able to then take this team out. Like, I think I could use Bosk actually to be able to take just the Revan and HK, but as it stands, I was able to take out Badstila, and then Darth Revan went down pretty quick, and HK went soon thereafter. So 30 banners, just fine. I got the win. That's really the only thing that matters. Truly, that's the only thing I cared about in this entire match. And you know, being able to one-shot it, or rather just use one relevant team to be able to take that team out is great, and I would consider that a trade up in my estimation. In fact, I loved the Jawa Gambit so much that I wanted to use it again right away. So next up, I wanted to try taking out this Padme team. You know, has max relics and max mods, and it's just an amazing team, really. Like, I'm really jealous of having it. And I needed to use my Traya squad, which is gear 12, and nothing really to write home about. You know, it's Traya, though, so she has a lot of really strong different synergies to play against this Padme team. And so I did want to use the Jawa Gambit again on them, just because I was worried about the stun that Padme does at the start. She does that kick, and the kick will stun you and make it so that you can't actually dispel it, and you need to be able to use your abilities right away in this match, especially if it's Nihilus and you don't really have any way of controlling who it is. And this Padme was worlds faster than any of my characters here, and so you see that I waited for a minute trying to figure it out. I wanted to use Isolate really bad, but you need to isolate Padme, and General Kenobi was taunting, so that meant that I couldn't use Isolate on her yet, so I deferred that. And now, you know, I was hitting General Kenobi so that I wouldn't trigger any more taunts, and once I did that, the taunt eventually went away, and I was able to get Isolate off on Padme. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is that you isolate Padme. She is, especially in 3v3, the crux of this team. Like, they rely on her to gain stacks of courage. Like, you need her, not only just her leadership, but you need her ability to be able to, you know, her cleanse ability also gives stacks of protection, and you just need to be able to avoid them doing that. You know, it gets real ugly real fast if you don't. And you'll notice that the first target I had for my Annihilate was on Anakin. Anakin is the one who poses the most threat on this team, just because he has a really high natural offense and, you know, could do a lot of damage. You're not really getting many stacks of protection here. Like, this team really isn't that strong on defense, honestly, if you can get Isolate onto Padme. If you can't, if you don't have some kind of game mechanic to be able to stop Padme from getting her cleanse up and getting all these different bonus stacks, like, I could definitely see this team being really strong. But as it stands, like, Traya just has a really huge advantage over this squad. I mean, if you look at it, I have Relic 1 on Scion, and they're all indifferently modded. Like, you know, they're kind of fast. None of my characters are like terribly modded. I've taken some pretty good care of that, but at the same time, this squad isn't really anything to write home about. Nihilus and Nihilus and Traya, rather, are both gear 12 plus 5, and that's great, but, you know, they're not super fast. They don't do anything super well, and I'm facing down this Relic 7 team with Padme and General Kenobi, and they're both like more recent characters as well, and that's also a factor. Like, they're more recent characters, so they're probably better, and yet I just hold this huge advantage. So 31 banners, got the win, and now we can move on to the next squad in this death zone. Alright, next up, we needed to take out this Jedi Revan team, and, you know, I had Padme for that, and, you know, on paper at least, this squad should absolutely destroy this Jedi Revan team. I definitely have the relic advantage, and I have a lot of different advantages, honestly. However, you just never know how this match is going to go. My Padme was actually faster than their Jedi Revan, just because Jedi Revan is actually slower in 3v3 because he can only have 2 other Jedi with him. However, Grandmaster Yoda was relicked, and he had really high offense numbers, and I really didn't want to mess around with him, honestly. This squad does a lot of assisting, though, and that really plays into Padme's kit really well. So the goal here is to take Grandmaster Yoda out, whoever has the least health out first, and that will trigger Revan's Savior. Now, if we use our specials, it's going to call us Ahsoka to assist, and she can't miss, and she dispels whatever she hits. And so, you know, this foresight on the Jedi is nice and all, but if you use a special, then Ahsoka can just dispel it passively. Like, she just does it outside of her turn, which is fantastic. You saw that I was able to just one-shot Jolee there, and it wasn't because my opponent had a really weak Jolee, it was because I had a pretty high stack of courage on Jedi Knight Anakin combined with Relic 7 and a lot of really high offensive mods. And so, you know, I was able to take out Jolee really fast, and once Jolee is gone, the revive mechanic is completely gone because we've already burned up Savior on Revan, and it's just a matter of time. So 51 banners here. I lost all my protection, or you know, a portion of my protection, and I couldn't grow it back, but I did have full health. So relatively easy match, and the only squad left is this really high relict clone team. And you know, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous about this, and I thought about it for a really long time. Decided I didn't want to use Malak as lead, just because Malak doesn't actually have leadership, so he wouldn't be benefiting from anything. I didn't know what to expect, and so I took Asajj as my leader. You know, I don't have it Zeta'd or Omega'd or whatever his lead is, but I give 60% defense to other Sith, and I feel like, you know, like Malak doesn't really need that much, honestly. Like, all he has to do is just do some force drains and everything, and he'll be fine. So having that extra defense to be able to shelter him from Echo's madness at Relic 7, the crazy amount of damage that the Echo really can do, and like, that was probably going to be enough. And you know, so the goal here is just to have Malak eventually slowly take these guys out. You want to take out 5s first, just because if you take out one of these other clones first, you know, 5s will go away anyways, and then the other 2 clones will be super buffed. So you know, Asajj was always going to die. He's gear 8, and I'm fine with that, getting an undersized win if I can win this, however. And you know, you can see my health really isn't dipping that low. Like, I don't know if that's a result of Savaj's leadership at work here, but you see that Rex also did his special there, like his mini annihilate, and that doesn't work against Malak. You know, one of the awesome things about Malak, you know, which everyone is probably painfully aware of by now, but one of the awesome things about him is that he doesn't take percentage health damage at all. And so, you know, the Rex Annihilate doesn't work on him. And 52 banners here, wonderful, and I finally cleared this zone. So, fantastic result. I was able to essentially one-shot each of the teams in the top death zone, and was able to go in with a relatively full roster against the bottom zone. My opponent did put their negotiator in on defense, just because, of course, they did. They're going full defense, why not? So moving into this last zone, the squad that I was immediately worried about was the Geonosians, and I wasn't able to save any of my meta teams to be able to take the Geonosians out. You know, all of them were just basically used up, and I didn't really know what to do against the Geonosians. Like, I thought, well, maybe my bounty hunters would be able to take them out, just because I do have some relics on them. I have them really well modded and really well, obviously well geared because they have relics. I thought maybe I'd be able to take out one of the Geonosians at least and kind of whittle them down. And so, you know, I'm trying to avoid using Nest here, just because I want to be able to use Nest on that Shock T team, which Clash from the Scoundrels Discord told me would have worked. But, you know, so I'm using the bounty hunters here. I put up the taunt on Bosk, and that's great. Bosk can't have any of his can't have his taunt dispelled now, and they're doing like no damage to him, like at a higher relic level, and with only 4 Geonosians pounding on him, like he's regenerating health quite a bit, and you know, he's really not having it, like nothing is really happening to him. The other awesome thing is my 2 Fets are able to target outside of the taunt, and so they're able to you know, hit whoever. The problem is I did damage to enough damage to the Geonosian soldier there that it actually dropped Bossk's taunt. And now I'm just kind of operating at a deficit here. They hit Boba a lot. They're focusing on him for some reason. They took him out, and like now my chances are pretty shot. Like I thought I had a pretty decent shot at being able to take one of these guys out, and that's just basically not the case. The Geonosians just had too big of a health pool. Like they still have 4 characters there. Like that's pretty good. You know, four characters in a 3v3 format is really strong. And so, you know, they took out the bounty hunters, and you know, I was just waiting to have a turn so I could forfeit. And you know, Bossk isn't going to do any good on his own. And so, you know, hit the forfeit button and moved on. Got my first loss in against the Geonosians, and now we're going to try countering something else. Or rather, I want to try using another team to counter these Geonosians. And so, you know, I had this idea of using Kylo as the lead, you know, with First Order Executioner, and then Watt would be able to hand out the different techs to be able to, you know, keep Kylo alive, keep First Order Executioner ticking, and being able to take guys out. And so, you know, first I wanted to put the taunting tech onto Kylo just so that immediately he'd be taunting, they wouldn't be able to take that out. And because he's relic, well, he's only relic 1, but he has a huge amount of protection and armor, presumably. And so immediately I was disabused of that notion, like they were doing a lot of damage to him. But I was able to, you know, get the tech on him, get the weapons tech onto First Order Executioner, who's also relicked, and now my goal was just to do enough damage to be able to one-shot one of these characters, or maybe 2. As you can see, you know, I did get the stun off on Brute. I was able to do a lot of damage to Geonosian Soldier, and, you know, really I think that if my characters were a little bit higher relic level instead of just relic 1, I'd probably be doing a little bit better. However, you know, Kylo Ren is just, he's taking too much damage every hit, and, you know, I probably need to mod him better, honestly, as well. I have speed mods on him right now, and that's probably less than ideal. But he does have max protection and health and all that stuff, and it's clearly not enough. Like, against a fully relicked Geonosian squad, probably need a couple more relic levels at the very least. So now, Kylo's gone, and First Order Executioner and Watt are just hanging out there staring at a bunch of Geonosians, and the spy got bored and one-shot Fox, so that was fun, and another defeat to the Geo. So I'd been trying to avoid using Nest just because I wanted to use Nest against the clone team with Shaak Ti and Relic 7 and ARC Trooper, who was 7-star and all that madness. However, I needed to be able to take out this Geonosian team. Like that, it was increasingly obvious that none of my other teams were probably going to be up to snuff, and so I did take Qi'ra Nest here. You know, Relic 7 Nest is nothing to sneeze at. You know, Tenacity down is on Nest and everything, and that's not great, but there's nothing really that dazes her. Like, they don't have Sunfac here, and so they can't daze me. And, you know, they're just doing damage here. That's fine. You know, I can get daze onto them and do an AoE, and as they're continually getting buffs, my critical damage is going up and up, and she's Relic 7, and so she can do a huge amount of damage on a crit. So you can see here, Geonosian Soldiers, you know, most of the way down, and I was able to take him out right away, and then immediately Spy went in and one-shot her. So kind of bad RNG there, in my opinion. You know, if it had timed a little bit differently, I think I would have been able to take that whole squad out, but nice shot by Spy, and you know, hopefully the squad is weak enough now that I would be able to take it out. But first I needed to make sure that I was able to take out all these other teams. I had Jedi Training Rey here. You know, maybe she could have been used against the Geonosians. I don't really know, but there's this Qi'ra team with L3 and Vander. It's just a timeout team. It doesn't do any damage, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to take this squad out. Really, I probably should have used a different team. Like, I think maybe that's a mistake that I made. I think she probably should have been thrown at the Geonosians as well. I don't know that I would have fared very well against them, but I think that maybe with all of her exposes, maybe I would have been able to actually get something done. as it stood, needed to make sure this team was taken out. Take out Vander first. After that, you take out L3 or Qi'ra. It doesn't really matter. In 3v3, it just doesn't matter. Like, you need to avoid hitting L3 if you want debuffs to stay on any of the other characters that she's with. Just because every time you hit her, then she passively just dispels them. And so you can see every time, like, she has buffs now, and once we hit her, then those buffs will just disappear. Well, they disappear because she died, but if you rewind, which I don't really recommend, but if you wanted to rewind, that would happen. So took that squad out, needed to take out this new Kylo Ren team. But first, I wanted to try an Emperor Palpatine counter against the Geonosians, and just got destroyed one more time. So back to the drawing board there. And that Palpatine team wasn't going to do any good against any of these other squads anyways, because Hux was going to disallow the use of his turn meter, and the turn meter gain is the whole thing about Palpatine. So figured I'd try it. Didn't work, and now I'm throwing Phoenix in against this Kylo team, because why not? I figured probably I'd be able to at least snipe out either Hux or Kylo, and I'm kind of speeding up the match here a little bit just because it's not that interesting, honestly. The characters all got destroyed, as you can see, and I'm starting to take a lot of losses here, dropping a ton of banners, so that's not necessarily the best thing in the world. And according to my 5-year-old, the best thing in the world is fruit by the foot, just so you guys are aware. Just in case you're still seeking that, fruit by the foot is the answer. So tons of my strong teams have been squandered, and I'm left with some pretty random teams. I do have Hux with the original Kylo and First Order Stormtrooper. Decided to try just the semi-mirror match here as far as factions go. The goal here was just to try to take out their Hux at least, and then hopefully just be able to attrition down the squad, just because I've already lost once. The goal here is just to get the full clear, and then hopefully my opponent wouldn't be able to do the same. And so, I wasn't really that concerned about losing another match, as long as I could eventually tear one of these teams down bit by bit. Like that was the main goal. And so I've never used Hux before in my life, and he's really strong, actually. Like I was really impressed with how he's doing. And now that I've taken out their Hux, they're not able to gain bonus turn meter at all. And I am. And so just trying to maximize my banners here. I saw my advantage. Obviously, First Order Executioner is a great character, but I'd probably be able to out-attrition him, even if he got a really lucky chain of hits here and was able to one-shot each of my characters, which wasn't the case. So, 31 banners seems pretty bad, and it is, but at least I got the win. So only the Shock T clone team left and 2 Geonosians. So first I wanted to try using my Gear 11 probe droid. Tarkin was the lead, and you can see he's already just been destroyed. And probe droid is ready. Just don't target him. And he's able to explode one of these clones, and unfortunately he was going to go next, and he just got taken out. So lost that one. Then I decided to throw in my Dooku squad with Marauder and Snowtrooper. You see I'm like really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but my Marauder actually has some decent relics, and so does my Snowtrooper. I figured if I could just kill one of these characters, just let me kill one of them, then I should hopefully be able to find a way to take out this Shock T combo. So Shock T and Clone Sergeant are left, and there's no way to revive them or anything, so I figured I'd just try to do a little bit more damage. And this combo is really strong. Like, she keeps stealthing Clone Sergeant, and she's Relic 7, and so she eventually they just took me out. So a decent result, though. I'm just trying to out-attrition. I'm like, you can see here, I threw in Ewoks. I fast-forwarded for you guys. I know that probably a lot of you want to see the slaughter of Ewoks, but just don't want to waste your time. That was like a 2-minute clip, and decided to chop it down to like 15 seconds. So Ewoks got destroyed, and I'm just feeding my opponent's defensive wins. My Finn team with Poe, I was like, oh sweet, I'm going to be able to get the feat. Not so much, so I tried that. And then I remember that I had my machine gun Leia team with Akbar. And this is a really cool team, just because Akbar gives so many assists, and with Rebels, like every time you do a basic, then it's going to expose someone with 3PO, and Leia gets 3 shots every time, a lot of times, and so every time you do a special, it forces one of these guys to assist, and so you're constantly getting exposes on them. You can see that I checked for a minute to make sure I was videoing it, because I was actually making some headway against this squad. So 22 banners, probably could have saved myself a whole lot of headache by doing that a little bit sooner, and maybe it would have worked against these Geonosians. I don't really know, but I was pretty excited about that. I had also been saving my best team for last. I figured if I could get through all these other teams and drag them down, then I would be able to use my General Skywalker team with my Relic Rex and my Gear 11 ARC Trooper to probably be able to take out the rest of these Geonosians. And so that's exactly what I did. I jumped straight into this fight, and it's a little bit rough. I've never used ARC Trooper before in my life. I've very rarely use General Skywalker. He is decently modded, and he's ready to go up in relics once I finally get him all the way up to 7 stars. But right now he's only 6 stars, and right now I'm just stuck behind the Brute's taunt, and eventually I did get toppled, and that opened the doors, of course, to the clones being able to be targeted. And I was just waiting. What I was really hoping for, what I really wanted to do, was be able to use Rex's Annihilate to be able to take out the Brood Alpha. And so I'm just like sitting here, please don't target Rex, please don't target Rex, please don't target Rex. And so they killed ARC Trooper first, and then they killed Rex, so that was great, just exactly what I didn't want. And then the cool thing was, like, General Skywalker was able to do a bunch of damage, and he eventually actually killed the Geonosian Brute. And I was like, yes, now all I need to do is just one more hit on the Alpha. And then of course Alpha just summoned another Brute, and we were back to square one, and I just didn't have enough juice to be able to finish things, which I guess I'm saying that a little bit sooner than you guys get to see it. But the fact of the matter is, I lost that one, and that basically killed my will to be able to beat this team. I had nothing left. I think I did try a couple more times, but I'm not going to show you guys what it was. It was just futile. It was just a slaughter. So Geonosian squad is really good in 3v3 if you don't have the right teams to be able to counter it, which my opponent put so many things on defense that I had to use the strong enough teams that could have beat the Geonosians on those other stronger teams. So maybe if I really looked back and readjusted which teams I used, probably would have been able to beat that Geonosian squad with something and still be able to get a clear. But as it stands, wasn't really able to. So I did want to take in ships, though. Need to be able to get the win here so I can clear at least 3 zones. Otherwise my opponent would get a really easy win against me. Alright, so the strategy here, as always, is to try to get the Jedi Anakin ship down to about 40% health or so, just so that then the AI is tricked. Like, normally the negotiator's first move is to do its AoE daze, and you really don't want that to happen. Like, you want him to use his buff to be able to make Jedi Anakin less killable. Like, you have to kill him twice, and I really shouldn't learn the name of that buff. Like, that's probably important. But so if you can do that, then even if you don't get first turn, which I did get first turn with my own negotiator. Even if you don't get first turn, however, you're still able to get the days off, and they don't get the days off. And so I was able to take out Houndstooth there. They brought Y-Wing in, and that really surprised me. Like, I did not expect that at all. They have a second taunting tank. Not necessarily my favorite, but you can actually dispel his taunt with Ahsoka, so that went well. And you can see all my ships are at pretty low health right now. All I really wanted to do, I wanted to make sure that I could take out their Jedi Anakin, and if I could take him out, then I'd be able to use other fleets to be able to out-attrition this team if I needed to. As it stood, I was able to take him out. The rest of these characters or ships or whatever you want to call them are all pretty low health at this point, and of course, Plo Koon comes in and fixes that for him real quick. He's such an annoying / awesome character. But, you know, the initiative is on my end. I haven't lost any of my ships, actually, at this point. And, you know, they're losing all their tanks. They've lost their heaviest hitter. Now Ahsoka's gone. And Plo is, you know, observing Order 66 firsthand. So, 58 banners, good enough for me. And honestly, it really, this whole match took so long just because I made so many attacks. And I did chop down a lot of them for you guys, but it still just took a long time. I was just ready to be done. So, you know, the hope, of course, was that my opponent wouldn't be able to full clear me. And the fact is, I was pretty confident. Like, I had my Darth Revan team on, and I also had Grievous. I had a bunch of pretty strong teams, and I was like, what teams could my opponent possibly use to even be able to clear me? And they didn't attack. You can see the timestamp at the top. You know, we're already down to 1 hour and 14 minutes, and they still haven't made an attack. I tried to contact them. They declined the conversation. 49 minutes to go, and still no attacks. And you know, this was going to really limit their ability to attack if they wanted to. 26 minutes, still haven't attacked, and at this point I decided probably my opponent wasn't going to actually do any hits, which is really unfortunate because I really want feedback on how my defense is. 11 minutes in, and even if they decided to start making attacks, it wouldn't have actually done anything. Like, you can't clear an entire board in 11 minutes, probably. Not my board, anyways. So, in the end, my opponent didn't attack, which is really frustrating. I wanted to see how my defenses did. Here are my defenses, just so you guys can see what I was doing with them. They are going to change in the next round, and, you know, we'll see what I'd end up doing for that, so stay tuned. But, you know, this is the tough zone, my double Night Sisters plus Jedi Revan, and then I put my Geonosians in the back as well. I have Sunfac in there instead of Soldier, which I think is a little better. It's a way bigger health pool at the very least. But got the win, happy enough with that, can't complain. You know, 3v3 is gonna be quite the learning curve, and you know, so I welcome any kind of feedback you guys have. I'm sure everyone has their pet theories on how I should have conducted myself against those Geonosians, and that's just fine. I would love to hear from you guys, so let me know in the comments below. And I did include the picture of my next opponent just because I really think his name is funny. Like, if you pronounce his second half of his name a certain way, it's really fun. And, you know, it's like large. It reminds me of large, the first word. So, you know, do with that word and that name as you will. And stay tuned for the next episode. Excited to be able to bring that to you guys on probably the premiere of the new Star Wars movie, so that's exciting as well. And anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, stay tuned for the next episode, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.